Greetings adventurers and welcome back to Bigjuicyhog Gaming. Today we're discussing a creature so terrifying, so impossibly powerful that its very existence has shaped civilizations, ended empires, and haunted the nightmares of the greatest heroes in D&D history. This is not a dragon. This is not a demon lord. This is not even a god. This is something far more primal, far more ancient, and far more unstoppable than any of those. This is the Tarrasque, the single most destructive force of nature in all of Dungeons & Dragons. Let's begin with a simple question. What is a Tarrasque? The answer depends on which sage you ask, which edition of history you read, and whether the person you're talking to has actually seen it and lived to tell the tale, a remarkably rare occurrence. The most basic description is this. The Tarrasque is a colossal monstrosity standing roughly 50 feet tall and 70 feet long, weighing hundreds of tons. Its body is covered in a carapace armor that makes adamantine look like parchment. It has 6 legs, each ending in claws that can shred castle walls. Its tail can level buildings with a single sweep. Its jaws can swallow an elephant whole. But these physical descriptions, while accurate, miss the essential truth about the Tarrasque. It's not just big. It's not just strong. It's not just armored. The Tarrasque represents something far more fundamental and far more terrifying. It is nature's reset button, the universe's way of saying, this civilization has gone too far, time to start over. The origins of the Tarrasque are shrouded in mystery and contradiction, which is fitting for a creature that predates most of recorded history. Different sources provide different answers, and the truth may be that all of them are correct, or none of them are, and the Tarrasque itself is beyond such mortal concerns as having an origin. One theory, popular among scholars of the primordial forces, suggests that Tarrasque is a remnant of the earliest days of creation, when the world was young and the elements still warred with each other for dominance. Powerful entities shaped reality through pure will and violence. The Tarrasque, according to this theory, is one of these primal forces, given physical form. Not created by anyone or anything, but simply existing because destruction itself needed a champion. Another theory, favored by those who study the Far Realm and its bizarre denizens, proposed that the Tarrasque came from outside reality entirely. It's not native to this plane of existence, or possibly any plane of existence. It's something that fell through a crack in the universe, something that doesn't follow the rules because it comes from a place where there are no rules. This would explain why the Tarrasque seems to defy so many natural laws. It's not breaking them, it simply never learned them in the first place. A third theory, one that keeps priests and clerics awake at night, suggests that the Tarrasque is divine punishment incarnate. Some god, or gods, in the distant past created this creature as a weapon to humble mortal civilizations that grew too proud, too powerful, too certain of their dominance over the natural world. When mortals forget their place, when they build their towers too high and their empires too vast, the Tarrasque awakens to remind them that they are temporary, fragile, and ultimately inconsequential in the grand scheme of existence. The most disturbing theory, however, comes from ancient texts found in ruins that predate most known civilizations. These texts suggest that the Tarrasque is not a creature at all, but rather a natural process given form. Just as earthquakes and floods are not creatures but rather expressions of natural forces, the Tarrasque might be destruction itself made manifest. It doesn't hunt, doesn't hate, doesn't even really think in any way mortals would recognize. It simply is, and its being requires the ending of other things. Regardless of its true origin, what we know for certain is this. The Tarrasque is old. Not old in the way dragons are old, having lived for centuries or millennia. Old in the way mountains are old, in the way oceans are old. The Tarrasque was here before the first human lit the first fire, and it will likely be here long after the last civilization crumbles to dust. Now let's talk about what makes the Tarrasque truly special, not its origins, but its horrifying capabilities. Because understanding what the Tarrasque can do is essential to understanding why it's considered the ultimate challenge in Dungeons & Dragons. First, the Tarrasque is nearly invulnerable. Its carapace armor provides protection that makes most weapons utterly worthless. Swords bounce off, arrows shatter, even most magical weapons do little more than scratch the surface. The creature has reflective carapace that can turn spell effects back at their casters. It has regeneration that allows it to heal from almost any wound. It's immune to fire, poison, disease, and most conditions that would stop or slow other creatures. Think about what this means in practical terms. You can't burn it, you can't poison it, you can't paralyze it. You can't put it to sleep. Most spells either fail completely or get reflected back at the caster. Physical damage? It regenerates faster than most parties can deal it. Second, the Tarrasque is devastatingly powerful offensively. Each of its attacks can kill even high-level characters outright. Its bite can swallow creatures whole, trapping them in its gullet where they're crushed and dissolved. Its claws can rend through armor like tissue paper. Its tails can sweep aside entire ranks of soldiers. Its horns can gore even the mightiest warriors. But here's what makes it truly terrifying. The Tarrasque doesn't just fight you. It fights everything around you simultaneously. While you're trying to damage it, it's destroying the city you're standing in, eating the civilians you're trying to protect, and reducing every building, wall, and fortification to rubble. Fighting the Tarrasque isn't like fighting a dragon where you can focus on the threat. It's like fighting a hurricane while also trying to save everyone in its path. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the Tarrasque has a feature that has frustrated DMs and players alike for decades. It's almost impossible to permanently kill. In various editions, the Tarrasque has different levels of unkillability, but the core concept remains the same. Reducing it to 0 hit points doesn't mean it's dead, it just means it's down. In some editions, you had to use a wish spell to keep it dead. In others, it simply couldn't be killed at all and would regenerate even from total destruction. The most recent editions simplified things slightly. You can kill it permanently, but even then the creature is so tough, so resilient, so overwhelmingly powerful that actually achieving that kill is one of the greatest challenges in the game. This brings us to the Tarrasque's behavior and the horror of its awakening. The good news, and it's the only good news, is that the Tarrasque spends most of its existence sleeping. Deep beneath the earth in some forgotten cavern or buried temple or pocket dimension, the Tarrasque slumbers. It might sleep for centuries or even millennia before awakening. The bad news is that when it wakes up, it's hungry, and the Tarrasque appetite is as legendary as its invulnerability. It doesn't just eat to survive, it consumes to destroy. Everything in its path becomes food. People, animals, buildings, trees, earth itself. The Tarrasque eats until there's nothing left to eat, leaving behind a wasteland where civilization once stood. Historical records speak of the Tarrasque's rampages in terms that sound like natural disasters because that's essentially what they are. The Tarrasque came in the year 342, reads like, "There was an earthquake in 342. Both events are simply catastrophes that must be endured, survived if possible, and rebuilt from afterward." Eyewitness accounts from those who survived Tarrasque attacks describe a creature that doesn't hunt or stalk. It simply walks in a direction, eating everything in its path, and nothing can make it stop or turn aside. Cities evacuate, armies flee, dragons avoid its territory. The Tarrasque doesn't chase or pursue, it doesn't need to. It will eventually consume everything anyway, so running just delays the inevitable. One particularly chilling account from the destroyed city of Karst describes the Tarrasque's approach. "We heard it before we saw it, a sound like thunder that never stopped, growing steadily louder over hours. Then we felt it, tremors that shook the ground with each step. By the time it came into view, cresting the horizon like a walking mountain, most of the city had already evacuated. Those who remained, either too stubborn or too faithful to leave, perished in minutes. The creature didn't attack the city, it simply walked through it, and when it had passed, there was no city left." Through D&D's history, countless campaigns have featured the Tarrasque as either the ultimate boss fight or as a force of nature that drives the plot without ever being directly confronted. Some classic scenarios include The Awakening. The party discovers signs that the Tarrasque is about to wake from its centuries-long slumber. They must either find a way to prevent its awakening, find a way to divert its path away from populated areas, or prepare a civilization for evacuation and survival. The Summoning. A mad cultist, vengeful archvillain, or desperate faction has found a way to wake and possibly control the Tarrasque, planning to unleash it on their enemies. The party must stop the summoning or deal with the consequences. The Last Stand. The Tarrasque is awake, it's heading for a major city, and there's no time to evacuate. The party must either find a way to kill it, slow it down, or divert its path, knowing that failure means the death of thousands. The Scavenger Hunt. The Tarrasque has just finished a rampage and returned to slumber, leaving behind a devastated wasteland. But in that wasteland are the remains of ancient civilizations the Tarrasque consumed, now accessible for the first time in millennia. The party must explore the ruins while avoiding the creature's rest period ending early. But here's the question that DMs and players have debated for decades. Can you actually kill the Tarrasque? Should you even try? Let's examine both the mechanical reality and the narrative implications. Mechanically, depending on your edition and your party's level and optimization, yes, it's possible to kill the Tarrasque. High-level parties with the right spells, magic items, and tactics can potentially bring it down. The creature has weaknesses. It can't fly, it's not particularly intelligent, and despite its regeneration, concentrated damage from a well-prepared party can overwhelm its healing. Famous strategies include flying above its reach and bombarding it with spells and ranged attacks, using powerful control magic to slow or restrain it while dealing damage, employing abilities to negate its regeneration, using environmental hazards like lava, falling, or drowning, polymorphing it into something weaker, then killing that form, and the classic high-level solution, using wish or similar reality-altering magic to simply remove it from existence. But here's where the narrative implications become important. The Tarrasque isn't just a monster with a stat block, it's a force of nature, a walking apocalypse, a creature that has ended civilizations. If your party can casually kill it, what does that say about your party? What does it say about the world? Many DMs prefer to keep the Tarrasque as something that can't be truly killed, only delayed or diverted. This preserves its status as the ultimate threat, the one thing in D&D that remains genuinely terrifying even to level 20 characters. The party might be able to drive it off, put it back to sleep, or buy time for evacuation, but actually ending it permanently? That's beyond mortal capability. This approach maintains the Tarrasque's role as nature incarnate. You don't kill a hurricane, you don't destroy an earthquake, you survive it, prepare for it, and rebuild after it passes. The Tarrasque is the same, a force that must be endured rather than defeated. Other DMs take the opposite approach. The Tarrasque can be killed, but doing so should be the culmination of an entire campaign. It's not a random encounter or a side quest, it's the quest. The ultimate challenge that requires planning, preparation, legendary magic items, divine intervention, and probably a few character deaths along the way. Killing the Tarrasque becomes the stuff of legend, the kind of achievement that gets your party mentioned in history books for millennia. Both approaches are valid, and which you choose depends on what kind of game you want to run. Do you want a world where even the greatest heroes have limits, or do you want a world where sufficiently powerful adventurers can overcome any challenge, even apocalyptic ones? Let's talk about some of the most memorable Tarrasque encounters in D&D history and fiction. While the Tarrasque appears across multiple campaign settings and editions, certain encounters have become legendary in their own right. One famous tale comes from a Greyhawk campaign where a party of level 20 characters decided to not just fight the Tarrasque, but to capture it. Their plan involved multiple wish spells, a portable hole, a bag of holding, and a pocket dimension specially prepared to contain the creature. The campaign's final session involved the party executing this plan while simultaneously dealing with the creature's rampage. They succeeded trapping the Tarrasque in a pocket dimension where it would theoretically remain for eternity. The DM later revealed that this solved the Tarrasque problem for that world, until a future campaign where adventurers accidentally broke the prison. Another memorable encounter involved a party that chose not to fight at all. Instead, they used divination magic to predict the Tarrasque's path, then evacuated 3 cities in its way over the course of several game sessions. The climax of the campaign wasn't a battle, but a massive rescue operation, with the party coordinating the evacuation while the Tarrasque approached. The creature destroyed 3 major cities, but because of the party's efforts, casualties were in the hundreds rather than the hundreds of thousands. Perhaps the darkest Tarrasque tale comes from a campaign where the party was explicitly told that they could not defeat it. Their quest was to find a way to put it back to sleep. The journey involved recovering ancient artifacts, consulting with dragons who had witnessed previous Tarrasque rampages, and ultimately performing a ritual that required one party member to sacrifice themselves to complete. The campaign ended with the Tarrasque returning to slumber, one city destroyed but many others saved, and the party fractured by the loss of their companion. The Tarrasque has also appeared in D&D novels and other media, though usually as a background threat or historical event rather than an active antagonist. This makes sense. A creature that can't be reasoned with, negotiated with, or understood doesn't make for a compelling long-form narrative antagonist. It's pure destructive force which works brilliantly in gaming, but less well in traditional storytelling. Now let's address some common misconceptions and debates about the Tarrasque. First, the pronunciation. It's Tarrasque, not Tarrasque or Tarrasque. The name comes from a mythological creature from French folklore called the Tarrasque, but D&D simplified the spelling and anglicized the pronunciation. Second, the size comparison. The Tarrasque is often compared to Godzilla, and while there are similarities, both are massive, nearly invulnerable reptile monsters that destroy cities. The Tarrasque is actually somewhat smaller than most Godzilla incarnations. Where Godzilla is usually depicted as several hundred feet tall, the Tarrasque is only about 50 feet tall. Don't let the only fool you, 50 feet is still taller than most buildings, and the Tarrasque's length of 70 feet makes it a truly massive creature. Third, the can it fly debate. In most editions, no, the Tarrasque cannot fly. This has led to somewhat anticlimactic strategy of flying above it and bombing it with spells until it dies. Some DMs find this unsatisfying and either give the Tarrasque ranged attacks, the ability to leap great distances, or simply make the encounter take place in terrain where flying isn't practical. Others embrace it. If your party is smart enough and powerful enough to fly above the Tarrasque and slowly whittle it down, they've earned the victory. Fourth, intelligence. The Tarrasque in most editions is not very smart. It has animal level intelligence at best. It doesn't strategize, doesn't learn from its mistakes, doesn't adapt to tactics, it just destroys. Some players find this disappointing. Wouldn't the ultimate monster be smarter? But there's something terrifying about the Tarrasque's mindlessness. It's not evil, it's not cruel, it simply consumes, and nothing you say or do will change that. The impact of the Tarrasque on D&D culture cannot be overstated. It has become shorthand for the biggest, baddest thing in the game. When players talk about their characters being powerful, they measure it against the Tarrasque. Could we take a Tarrasque? It's become a benchmark, a measuring stick, the ultimate prove your power encounter. The creature has inspired countless memes, jokes, and community discussions. The image of the Tarrasque calmly walking through a city while adventurers flee has become iconic. Discussions about the best way to kill it have filled forum threads for decades. It's appeared in homebrew content, variant rules, and campaign settings across the D&D community. But more than just its mechanical presence, the Tarrasque represents something fundamental about D&D as a game. The idea that some things are bigger than you, some challenges are meant to be survived rather than overcome, and sometimes the greatest heroism is knowing when to run and save who you can rather than standing and fighting. In modern D&D, the Tarrasque role has evolved somewhat. 5th edition makes it slightly less invulnerable than previous versions. It can be permanently killed without magic, its regeneration can be overcome, and high-level parties with good tactics have a reasonable chance of defeating it. Some purists don't like this change, feeling it diminishes the creature's legendary status. Others appreciate that it makes the Tarrasque a viable encounter for high-level campaigns rather than just a narrative device. The Tarrasque also appears in various official D&D campaign settings with different lore and roles. In Eberron, there's no Tarrasque, but there are creatures that fill similar roles. In Forgotten Realms, the Tarrasque is a known entity with a documented history of rampages. In Dark Sun, the apocalyptic nature of the world means the Tarrasque is just one of many horrors competing for the title of Most Dangerous Thing. So what does the Tarrasque mean for your campaign? That depends entirely on how you want to use it. Here are some possibilities. As an ultimate threat, the Tarrasque is the final boss, the culmination of a level 1 to 20 campaign, the thing everything has been building towards. Defeating it requires every resource, every ally, every trick the party has learned throughout their journey. As an environmental hazard, the Tarrasque is like a volcano or hurricane, a natural disaster that must be prepared for and survived. The campaign involves evacuating populations, preserving knowledge and culture, and finding ways to rebuild after the rampage. As background lore, the Tarrasque exists near world's history as the thing that ended the previous civilization, the reason why ancient ruins dot the landscape, the explanation for why some areas are wastelands. It doesn't appear in active play but shapes the world's history and culture. As a deterrent, the Tarrasque sleeps somewhere in your world, and various factions are trying to wake it, control it, or ensure it stays asleep. The party must navigate these political and magical conflicts without actually fighting the creature itself. As a humbling force, the party is powerful, maybe too powerful, maybe starting to think they're invincible. Then they hear about the Tarrasque, witness its destruction, and realize that for all of their power, they're still mortal, still small in the grand scheme of things. Let's talk about some creative ways DMs have modified or reinvented the Tarrasque for their campaigns. One popular variant is the Tarrasque cult, worshippers who view the creature as a god of destruction and renewal. These cultists work to wake it, guide its path, or simply survive in its wake, believing that the world needs periodic cleansing. Another variant is the multiple Tarrasques. What if there's more than one? What if there are Tarrasques sleeping under multiple continents, and they wake on some cosmic schedule? The party's victory in stopping one becomes bittersweet when they learn there are others. The baby Tarrasque concept asks, where do Tarrasques come from? If there can be multiple, can they breed? What if the party encounters a juvenile Tarrasque? Still incredibly dangerous, but not yet at full size. Do they kill it while they can, or does that make them as destructive as the creature itself? The possessed Tarrasque variant adds intelligence to the mix. What if something, a demon lord or archfey, an ancient lich, found a way to control or possess the Tarrasque? Now you have the destructive power of the Tarrasque, plus the cunning of a genius-level antagonist. One of the darkest variants is the starving Tarrasque. The creature wakes in a world where it has already consumed everything once before. There's not enough life left to satisfy its hunger, so it doesn't return to sleep. It just keeps searching, destroying, becoming more desperate and aggressive as it finds less and less to consume. The Tarrasque also raises interesting moral and philosophical questions. Is it evil? Most editions list it as unaligned, meaning it's not evil in any moral sense. It's just a force of nature. But does that matter to the people it kills? Does a creature need to intend harm for its actions to be evil? Can it be redeemed or reformed? If you could somehow communicate with it, make it understand the suffering it causes, would it stop? Or is it so fundamentally alien that human concepts like suffering and morality are meaningless to it? Should it be killed if possible? If your party has the power to permanently destroy the Tarrasque, ending its threat forever, should they? Or is the Tarrasque part of the natural order, a necessary force that keeps civilizations from becoming too powerful or too complacent? What happens to a world after the Tarrasque is gone? If it's truly killed permanently, does that change something fundamentally about reality? Was it serving a purpose nobody understood? Will something worse emerge to fill the void? These questions don't have right answers, but they can make for fascinating campaign moments and player discussion. As we conclude this deep dive into the Tarrasque, let's consider what makes this creature so enduring in D&D culture. It's not just the stats or the challenge rating, it's what the Tarrasque represents. The idea that no matter how powerful you become, no matter how many dragons you slay or demons you banish, there's still something out there that makes you feel small. In a game where players become increasingly powerful, where level 20 characters can reshape reality and challenge gods, the Tarrasque remains the one thing that says, you're not invincible. It's a reminder that the world is bigger than you, older than you, and will continue long after you're gone. The Tarrasque is nature's indifference made manifest. It doesn't hate you, it doesn't fear you, it doesn't even acknowledge you. It simply is, and your existence or non-existence matters not at all to its purpose. In a game about heroes, the Tarrasque reminds us that sometimes survival, not victory, is the greatest achievement. Whether you run it as an unkillable force, an ultimate boss fight, or a background threat that shapes your world's history, the Tarrasque serves as a unique role in D&D. It's the apocalypse with teeth, the end of civilization with claws, the creature that reminds both DMs and players that in a world of magic and monsters, some things remain beyond mortal control. So the next time you're designing a high-level campaign and wondering what could possibly challenge your overpowered party, remember the Tarrasque. Remember that it has ended empires, destroyed civilizations, and haunted nightmares for decades of D&D history. Remember that it's not just a monster, it's a force of nature, a walking cataclysm. the thing that reminds adventurers that for all their power, they're still mortal. And most importantly, remember this: the Tarrasque is sleeping right now. Somewhere deep beneath the earth in some forgotten place it slumbers. But one day, maybe today, maybe in 1,000 years, it will wake. It will be hungry. And when it does, the only question that matters is, will you fight or will you run? That's our deep dive into the Tarrasque, the most destructive creature in Dungeons & Dragons. If you enjoyed this lore exploration, make sure to subscribe to Bigjuicyhog Gaming for more D&D content, monster breakdowns, and deep dives into tabletop RPG lore. What's your Tarrasque story? Have you fought one, run from one, used it in a campaign? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing about how different groups handle this legendary creature. This is Bigjuicyhog Gaming, reminding you that in D&D, the greatest adventures come from the greatest challenges. And there's no greater challenge than the Tarrasque. Until next time, roll well, and may your Tarrasque always be sleeping.